Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I have a Canvas Workspace tutorial for you, and this is another case of reverse engineering a pattern for a card stroke stationery box set. I'm going to be using the same measurements as for the hand cut version throughout this tutorial, and then at the end what we'll do is we'll just reduce everything all together so that we'll be able to cut this out on our ScanNCut. So if you want to find out exactly how it's done, then stick with me and I'll show you how. Now the pattern that I'm following calls for a piece of cardstock that measures 12 by 12. And although the mat is a 12 by 12 mat, we know that the cutting area is smaller than that 12 by 12. So let me just bring in a square first and I'll show you. We resize this to 12 by 12 and I'll place it in the corner of this mat, which would be on the XY axis 0, 0. That's our full 12 inches there. Go back again, do that. We zoom in, we'll see that that is beyond the cutting area, which is this red dotted line here. The cutting area for the machine is actually 297 millimeters, which is 11.69 inches. That's clearly too large for that. So it needs to be no more than that, and that's really taking it right to the very limit. So you can't be any wider than 11.69. So I'm going to reduce this 12 by 12 to a more manageable size, but I'm not going to reduce it until I've completely followed all the guidelines in the pattern that I'm following. So all the cut lines, all the score lines, everything will be completed first. Then I'll select everything and reduce it. I'm going to reduce it. I'm going to resize it. I'll use that. Resize, and I'm going to resize it to 96%, which will bring that, and if I just do that now, I'll show you. So we've taken it down by 4%. So that means this is now going to be just a little more than 11.5 inches. So that means we can easily get our 12 by 12 cardstock within, or it will be on our mat, but then our cutting area will be within that bounding box there, that cutting box. So let's just get back to the 12 by 12. And it's already in the 0 and 0 XY axis, which is where I want it. I'm going to give it some color. Fill that, and then I'm going to use the layers to lock that into place. And as you see, when we go back over to the edit function, everything is grayed out in relation to this piece here. So nothing is going to happen to that. You can't move it around, you can't resize it, you can't even delete it. Right? So that means we can easily put in our score lines and our cut lines now without that shifting about on us. So the first score line that we're going to bring in is going to be at 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to place my path tool, click on start, and then I can just hold the shift key, oops, and double click, and that usually happens to me. So what I like to do is to use my snap to grid. You can use either one. I do shift back and forth between them, so I can click on that and it will stay completely straight. And I see the width is 0, which is right, and then I'll just change that to 12 inches. I'm going to click off from the maintain aspect ratio because we're going to put some other dimensions in here that are not going to need that. So this first score line now needs to be turned into a dash pattern so it doesn't completely cut through. Just going to put these score lines in. I'm using that third one down. We want to place that in position. So just highlight it, go to edit, and then place it at 0.75, which is 3/4, and at 0. So it's at the top, and it's 3/4 of an inch in from the left. The next score line is going to be at 2 3/4. So duplicate your score line, change the position to 2.75 and 0. Now I'm also going to put a little tick mark in here as a reminder to where I want to take a piece out of this, because we're going to actually cut out the top portion of this base, and I'm going to just do that. I will actually turn it into a draw so that I'm not accidentally cutting that out, and that I'm going to place at 1.75, so 1 3/4 of an inch, and all will become clear in just a little bit. So I need to do these same measurements but on the right hand side of this piece, and I'm going to duplicate that score line, and I'm going to place this again. It's going to be at 0, and it's going to be at 9.25, so 9 1/4 inches, because that is going to be 2 3/4 inches from the right hand side of this 12 by 12 sheet. Duplicate that and place the next one at 11.25, 11 1/4, which is 3/4 from the right hand side. I'll do the same with my little tick mark here. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to move this to 10 1/4, because that is 1 3/4 inches from the right side. So we have this now. So those are our vertical lines. Our horizontal lines are going to go, of course, like this. We'll change that to a dash line, and this we're going to place at 5 inches on the Y axis, and it will remain at 0 for the X. The next one, we'll duplicate that is going to be, again, X will be 0 and Y will be 7 because it has a 2-inch base. So this is 2 inches here. So those are all the score lines that we need for this. Now, as I said, we're going to do some cutting away on this top portion here. The bit here below the 7-inch score line is going to be left intact just as it is. So what I'm going to do is bring in another square that I'm going to resize. I'm going to resize this to 1 3/4 in width, which makes it the same as that tick mark that we had there. I'm going to take this snapped grid off for the moment. Right, and then I want this also to be 5 inches in length. All right, so the width is 1 3/4, and then the height is 5 inches. So now I can just delete that because I know where that needs to be placed now. So this is going to go up here into this corner. So that means it's going to be 0 and 0. If you want, you could even give that some color so that you can find it easily. I'm going to cut this out as well, so I can delete that. I'm going to duplicate this. I'll bring it over. We're going to put it at the 10 1/4 and 0. Now, we're also going to be cutting this portion out, but I'm going to do that separately after we've done this. So, to be able to subtract these 2 rectangles from the back piece, we've got to unlock that. If you click here, oops, just be sure that's in place. It is 0 0. You can see the green is highlighted up there, so we know we've got that unlocked. So now we're going to select these 2 shapes. So we've got a blue box around that, we've got a blue box around that, and then we've got the blue box around the entire shape. We don't want to select any of the score lines because we won't be able to cut out or punch through those. If you have any of those score lines selected, you won't be able to. So we'll go to Edit, Process Overlap, and Subtract. So now we have this. And if I take that and place it to the back, you'll see all the score lines are still there. Okay, let's just double check that it's still in place at 0 0, and we're going to lock it back again. Because now we want to bring in a rectangle that will cut this piece here out and this piece here. So this is 3/4 and this is 2 inches. So we want a shape that is 2 3/4 inches wide and 2 inches high. 2.75. Right. That is going to go here. So it's going to go at 0. And it's going to go at 5 inches. Again, I can just give that some color. Put that back into place. And we're going to do the same over here. So we'll highlight that and duplicate it and move it. To 5 inches and 9 1/4. Right, so if you look here, you'll see that if you follow that score line all the way down, it's going to go right through there. So again, back to layers, unlock this piece here, select your 2 rectangles, and you can see the blue boxes around those. Go to process overlap and subtract. Send that back to back of this. And I'll lock that back again. Let's just be sure it's in the right place. Yes, it is. And we'll lock that back in again. So we have these sort of stray score lines here. Let's bring that to the front. Now you can just leave them as they are, because it's really not going to make a lot of difference on the mat. It will cut, but it will, of course, not cut it through. But if you like, and I'm going to do this, just going to grab that and pull it down and resize it. Okay, I'll do the same here. This piece. That. Now for our lid, we want to make that 1/8 of an inch larger than our base. And remember, our base is 2 inches in depth. So we want to make this 2 1/8 inches rather than 2 inches. So we'll start with the basic shape of this, which is going to be in width, it's going to be 10 7/8, so that is 10.875. And the height is going to be 6 3/8, so that's 6.375. give it some color. And I'm going to place that again in the corner of the mat at 0 on the X and Y axis. And I'll lock this into position like so. Now, for this, we're going to actually make tabs in each of these corners to bring in a square that is 2 1/8 inches. So 2.125, which is 1/8. 2.125. That is going to go into the corner here. That's going to be on this corner and then the bottom two as well. So that will go at 0 and 0. Next, I'm going to double click on that and expose the node. So I've got the path editing tools, and I'm going to remove this point here, because when I remove that point, it's going to shift this line over to here and form the triangle. So there is my triangle. If I just give it some color, you can see. And it's here in the corner, or it will be in a moment. So I'm going to place that in that corner. But I'm also going to duplicate it, so I've got it available for the other side. And on this side, we want to flip it over so it's mirrored. That's going to go over there. So this one we'll place first at 0 and 0. This one is going to go at 8 3/4, so that's 8.75. And 0. What I can do now, though, is to go ahead and select both of these. And duplicate them. Just group them. We'll have them for the bottom down here. So I can flip them vertically. That one is 0 and 4.25. And so is that one. 4.25. Right, so we have those into the corners. We can then unlock the background, select it, go to Process Overlap, and remove those corners. So these have now been removed. So we can put our score lines in next, and we'll make sure that this is still in the right position. Lock it in place. And then I'll go back and put my score lines in. You could do the score lines first if you wanted and then cut out the corners. Either way, it will still work out exactly the same. So now we want to put in our score line 2.125, which is 2 1/8 inches. And in fact, all the sides will be scored exactly the same. So I can use my path tool here. I'm going to place that at 2.125 and at 0. Make it a dash pattern. You can make that a bit longer. 6 3/8, so 3.75. Right, so that is our first score line. I'm going to repeat this. So we'll duplicate it, and we're going to take it to the other side. That is going to go again at 0 and at 8 3/4. So 8.75. Those are the horizontal score lines. The vertical score lines, those are the vertical score lines. The horizontal score lines are going to be at 2 1/8 and 0 for the X. Repeat that. Actually, let's go ahead and make it a dash pattern first. And then we'll repeat that. And place it at 0. And then we'll move this. Take that off. So this is going to go at 4 1/4. 4.25 and 0. Right. So there is the lid so far. Now, we need to put a cut line here because we've got to free up this tab. So we want a cut line here. We want a cut line here. And we want the same on this side. So that will free that tab up. So this edge here is going to fold over inside like that. So I'm going to make another score line, or use the path tool again, I should say, to make a straight cut line. And that's going to be 2 and 1/8 inches in depth, so 1, 2, 5. That move. That's going to move into where this score line is at the moment. So how I think I'm going to do mine is I'm going to go ahead and grab that score line and pull it in so that it's underneath this set of score line, this score line here. So then now I can move this into position, so it's 2.125, and that will be my cut line. So it's going to cut right through here and stop when it gets to the 2 1/8 inch score mark. So we'll do the same, duplicate that. And I'm going to move it down to here, so I can go ahead and reduce that. Pull it up. Doesn't have to be exactly the 2.18, but just so it's in between there. This is going to go four, 2, 5. So 2.125. There we are, 4.25. And even if you extended this cut line beyond here, it will still cut it just fine. So we're going to duplicate these. We could place this. Oops, let's see, duplicate that one. And now we're going to move that to the other side. So this is going to be 4 1/4. And the X is going to be at 875. Like that. So we can go ahead and move that dotted line up. We'll move it down here. And we can duplicate this one. It's going to go here at 8.75 and 0. There are all our score lines and cut lines in place. Just going to cut here, 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 and here. And then the rest will all be your folded score lines. So you want to, just going to go ahead and group all those together. And then I'm going to unlock the shape. Group those. And we have our lid. So we just move that also off to the side. Next is the large pocket. And that is going to be a piece that measures 8 3/8, so that will be 8.375, and it's going to be 4 inches high. Get that color again. So let's give it something else instead. Then we'll place this at the corner and lock that in place. Then I can go back and do my score lines now. This has just 3 score lines, and they're going to be on 3 sides. So there'll be a 1-inch score line at either end, and then at one side on the long long side here. So we're going to make our first score line. It's going to be another dash pattern, and that is going to go at 1 inch. We'll duplicate that, and we'll put it to the other side, which is 0, and that will be 7 3/8, so 7.375. To draw a horizontal line, that will be at 0 and 1 inch, or you could put it down here, in which case it would be 3 inches. It's just that 8.375. That is also going to be a dash pattern, right? So far we have that. Now what we want to do is actually chop out these 2 corners here. So those are 1 inch. So we'll bring in a square, resize that to 1 inch. To place that in the corner, take that snap grid off. So 0, 0 is where it's going to go. Give it some color so we can see it. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it on this end, again at 0, and at 7.375. You can see that now. Go to layers and unlock the shape. Then we can select these. Oops. Like that. And our shape for our pocket, and we'll go to process overlap and subtract. So when you send that to the back now, see these score lines, and this score line actually is extending. Just lock that back again. That score line there is still extending beyond here. So if you want to, you can just pull that in so that you don't have that trying to cut through there as well. So there we have our shape. We can group all our score lines on, lock that, and then group all of our large pocket. So that's the large pocket done. That quick. Next is the medium pocket, and the medium pocket measures 5.5 by 2.5. We'll go back to Edit, bring in our square. I'm going to change this to 5.5 by 2.5. Again, we're only going to score on 3 sides, but in this case there will be 2 score lines, one at 1/2 inch and one at 1 inch. So let's give this some color. Place that at 0. Okay, and lock it. Then we can bring in our score lines. Make that 2.5. Right, that is going to be a dash line. We're going to place that at 0.5. We'll duplicate it. And the second one is going to be at 1 inch. So duplicate and place it at 1 inch. Then we will duplicate that. I'm going to bring that over to the right hand side, and that will be, since this is 5.5, this will be at 5. Duplicate that. 0 and 4.5. Right, so we've got 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and another score line at 1 inch. And then for the other side, we simply want a 1/2 inch, so we'll turn that into a dash line. place it at 0, and this way I just put it at 0.5. So it's there at the ½ inch mark. So again, we want to take this portion out so that we can make these. This will just be a tab. This will be a tab here. So for that, I'm going to bring in another square and resize that to ½ inch in height, and 1½ in width. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 inch in width. There we are. So that's ½ inch, ½ inch. That's 1 inch there. And that is going to go at 0. Then we'll duplicate that. And we'll place that at 4½ and 0. So into those corners there. Then we can unlock our shape. We can select each of these as well as our background. Go to Process, Overlap, and Subtract. So we can send this to the back again. And then we can lock that back down. Be sure it's still at 0. Lock that back into place. I can grab these score lines and resize them so they're under there. Then I can select all the score lines, group them, unlock the shape, and now regroup everything again. And there is our medium pocket done. So we have next a small pocket. That is going to be four and 7/8 by 2.5. So 4 and 7/8. So that's 4.875 and 2.5 inches in height. So it's the same height as the medium pocket. Give it some color. Place it at 0. And we'll secure it by locking it in place. And then our score lines for this are going to be the same as for the medium pocket, so that means 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So make that a dash pattern and place it at 0.5 and 0. There's our first score line. Then we'll repeat that and place that at 1 inch. And we'll repeat that one. That'll be 4 3/8, so 375, 0, and then we'll duplicate that one and place that again and 0, and then 3.875. So that's 1 inch and 1/2 inch in from either side. Then we need a horizontal line. Take that off. And that is going to go at 0.5. Make that a dash as well. Okay. Then we need to take these corners out again. We can go ahead and just move that in if you like. Bring in our 1 inch square. Actually, it's got to be one by 1/2 inch. Okay. And that is going to go in the corner at 0. And then on the other end, duplicate that. $3.875. Right. And now we can unlock maybe we didn't lock it. I locked that. Let's get back here. No, it's locked. Okay, so let's unlock that. You can always go up here as well and unlock everything if you want to. But I've already unlocked that now. So we'll select these pieces. So we've got the blue boxes highlighted around each of those. Go to Process Overlap and Subtract. And then we can send that to the back. I'm going to do back and lock it once again. And then I can move those score lines down like that. So now we can group all our score lines, unlock the pocket, and group everything together. And then we can just move that aside. Next, I'm going to make a little pocket that you could use to place stamps or just tuck in anything else that you wanted. So I'm going to bring in a square here, and I'm going to resize this to 2 3/4 by 2.5 inches in height. That little bit of color as well. Let's choose that. We'll place that up in the corner again. We're nearly there. And I will lock that in place and then bring in these score lines. And again, this is going to have just 3 score lines. So I want to place a score line at 1/4 inch on 3 sides, that is. So we'll place this one at 0.25 and 0. Make that a dash pattern as well. So take that off for now. Duplicate this, and then we'll place it on here at 0. And 2.5. Because that is 2 3/4 of an inch wide. And then finally, we need a line that is going to be at 0 1/4, so 0.25. Like that. Oops. Let's go ahead and change that to a dash pattern, and then place it at 0.25. Right, and then we can remove these pieces here, or you could just wait and cut them off when you get ready to put them down. But we can go ahead and actually make a little tab out of that. So what we'll do is we'll bring in a square that is a 1/4 of an inch. That's going to go up here in the corner. Duplicate that and place that the other side. And we can unlock this. And select, oops, those back. And to process overlap and to remove those little corners. Send that to the back, and then I can lock this again. And I can resize these score lines. Now we can also, if you wanted to, you could actually angle these now if you like. But I think I would just wait until I was ready to put them on to the base and can make the little tabs then. So I'll, oops, I'll move that. Just pull those down as well. Okay, so that one should be ready. Oh, there is one more thing I want to do. I want to actually have a little thumb hole here. So it'll be easier to get in and out of this. So this is, as it stands now, the bottom of this little pocket. This will be the top. I'm going to bring in a circle, should be fine. I'm going to resize this. About 3/4 of an inch should be about right. Want to be precise, we can just change these dimensions. I want it to go into the middle of this, so I'll need to unlock this for a moment so that I can place that. In the center, And I think I'll try that again. About halfway down should be fine. So we'll do this. Make sure that's in the center, and then I can cut that out. I'll lock this down again. Actually, before I do that, I want to send it to the back. Lock it. Then we can group these score lines here. Unlock it. And group the stamp pocket. So that's done. Now the last thing I want to do, because it's for the pen holder, I'm not going to do that until I'm ready to actually select my pen so that I can get this size right, and we'll just be making that off of a little offcut. But now I need to bring in my dimensions for a notepad, or a in my case I'm going to use little sticky notes. So those measure 3 by 3, but you might want to resize yours differently. So you might want, for example, to have something that is maybe you have papers that are like 3 3/4 or 3 1/4. We just adjust the sizes to fit. So what I want is mine to be 1/8 of an inch clearance on either side. Right, we can bring in a square that is maybe resized to 3 1/4 inches in width, and the length is going to be 6 1/2. Let's give that some color as well. And place that at 0, and then just need for this, after we've locked that in, are 2 score lines. And the first of these is, just change the length of that, 3.25. The dash pattern. Okay, and that is going to be at 0 and 3.25. Then I'm going to duplicate that, and this one is going to go 1/4 of an inch away at 3 1/2, so that my 3 by 3 pad will fit in here. You'll have 1/8 of an inch clearance at the sides, at the bottom, and then here it will come up to that score line, and you'll have that 1/4 of an inch spine there. So let's go ahead and group those. Unlock this and group that. That is everything completed, and now I'm going to resize these with 2 exceptions: stamp pocket and our notepad. We don't want to resize those. Want those to stay in the original size, otherwise they're going to be too small. The other pieces won't matter. So let's bring all of these over into the center here. Right, and I'll go ahead and select all of those, and I can actually group them if I like, just for the moment, and resize them to 96. So by keeping the maintain aspect ratio ticked, then it will change the width and the height proportionally. So 96. Okay. And then when you ungroup this, you'll see that the base is now 11.52. Our lid has also been reduced, as well as the 3 pockets, and then these I've kept the same size. So they'll still fit inside of here, like that. And like that. Right, so now you can bring everything together. I'm just going to align them. Don't want them grouped, because when I bring them over to the mat to be cut, I don't want that still grouped, because it will just cut it as one complete file, and we don't want that. So I can just be sure that all that is within that cutting area. I'll save it again, and then I'll send it to my machine. All right, and I'm also going to put it on my USB stick, I think, as well. So I'll do that. I'll export that. And then what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to make a separate video showing the actual construction. So this is where this is going to end. So you can then go and look at the other video to see exactly how you put it together. I will also break this down into a zip folder, giving you the various components, the various mats. For example, I'll have a mat for the base, another mat for the lid, and then the pockets, etc. And then you can have that as a free download. So I hope you will give this a chance. Maybe experiment with some measurements of your own, or maybe just find a pattern that you like. It could be like, say, a gift bag or another sort of box set such as this, and see if you can't reconstruct it, re-engineer it, reverse engineer it into a cutting file that then you'll have forever and ever, and you won't have to worry about all the hand cutting or the cutting on your trimmer. There may be some little pieces that you'll have to do, of course. The other thing I'll do is for the mats. I'll work those measurements out for you based on the reduced sizes that we have here, and I'll put those in another file for you, maybe 2 or 3 different files. I'm going to then go over to my machine, cut all the pieces out, and then I'll take it from there. So in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this wasn't too terribly long and hopefully not too confusing. Please just take your time, go back through the video time and time again. I may have to do a little tweaking here and there, but I will be sure that everything is correct before I put it into a cutting file for you that you can then download. Again, thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate every single one of you, and I do hope that you're having a very good evening, day, wherever you are, and I hope that you'll subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, be sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future tutorials, and until we meet again, please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.